We're having global leadership crisis, and particularly right here in the United Kingdom, we've seen that in the last number of days. Yeah, with what has happened with our prime ministership. We've seen it. Because one of the fallacies of leadership is also becoming apparent, of modern day leadership, because there was a movement that wanted us to believe that all that is necessary for effective leadership is competence in one area or the other. But right now we're starting to find out that competence in one area is not sufficient for wholesome leadership. That your competence has to be wider than one area. So our resigning, not resigned yet, resigning prime minister was made prime minister, or was chosen by a play of interesting circumstances, largely on the premise of a particular competence. And that competence was his charisma, his likability, and ultimately his ability to win elections. So we put him, if you like, into the role because of that competence, and we were willing to overlook every other area of incompetence over the strength of that singular competence. But the problem is that incompetence, when it has to do with character, is just a matter of time. It's going to catch up with you, and it will undermine that other competence that we are hailing. So we're starting to find out that the demand for leadership now is not just I'm good in one area. It's now a demand that demands for you to have decent competence in other areas also. You might not be the best in every other area, but you must still be competent, particularly when it comes to character. You know, some of us like praying the prayer, Lord, don't take me somewhere where my character will not keep me. Because your gift can get you in the room. It's your character that keeps you in the room. Did you hear me what I'm saying? Your gift can get you into the room, but it's your character that keeps you in the room. So we need leaders. And just as you are starting to look for the leaders, please look in the mirror. It's you. It's you that we're waiting for. It's you that we need. We call this Future Shift. We call today a Business and Leadership Summit. And it's open for everybody because all of us are called to lead. All of you probably know the definition of leadership, or one of the most popular definitions of leadership being that leadership is influence. And if leadership is influence, the truth be told, every single one of us has influence. And if every single one of us has influence, that means every single one of us is a leader. Do you realize that even your baby has influence? You didn't know? Just let the baby start crying and you see the baby's influence. The baby starts crying in the middle of the night, mommy wakes up, gets up, runs to the room. And then in a balanced world, it's not just mommy that wakes up, daddy wakes up too. That's influence. All of us have influence. That means if leadership is influence, all of us are called to lead. All of us, every single one of us. So when we start talking about the need for leadership, stop looking outward, start looking inwards. And if there's anything that's going to come out of what I'm sharing with you as a forerunner, as a John the Baptist this Saturday afternoon, let it waken within you once again the challenge, the motivation that I need to rise up. I need to take the lead. And let me tell you something. You don't need position to lead. A lot of us are waiting to be given a position, given a title. Particularly the African man thinks I need a title to lead. But no, you don't need a title to lead because you had the influence before you got the title. But if you are given a position, if you are given a title, learn how to use that position and that title in a servant leadership capacity. But don't wait for the position or a title to start to take the lead. I found out that the most influential leaders are a lot of the time not even the person that is visibly on the throne. A lot of the time the influential leader is the persons around the throne that are able to speak and counsel and tell what they're meant to do. But even though all of us are called to lead, every one of us, whether you have come to terms with it or not, I hope you come to terms with it sooner than later, not all leaders are equal. Just like the fingers are not equal. And that means that what I'm trying to let you know is that some leaders have an edge. What's an edge? An edge is an advantage. Just a little bit extra. And that's what I call the leading edge. Sometimes all you have over another person is an edge, the leading edge. And the first element of a leading edge I want you to really get this afternoon, I really want you to get it this afternoon, is the need to shift from reaction to proaction. The leader with the leading edge is not a reactionary, he's a proactionary. What does this mean? Majority of people are reactionary. They live their lives in constant reaction, constantly reacting to whatever is happening all around them. They are reactionary. And if we would examine our lives, we might find out that even we have largely been living a reactionary life. The challenge with being reactive all the time, always reacting to things, is that you are no longer in control, because you are not the one initiating things now. You are responding, or rather reacting to whatever somebody else has initiated. So with all the challenges in the world that we're living in now, the majority of people are just reacting to everything that's happening, reacting to the rise in price here, reacting to this, that, and the other. So living a reactionary life. But the leader that's not just going to react to change, but will end up leading the change, stops being reactionary and starts being proactionary. He starts being proactive. What does it mean to be proactive? To be proactive means to prepare, to plan, to be ahead of the curve. I'm not just going to react to what is going to happen. I have preempted. And that's part of the reason that we have PK here today. He's a futurist. I have preempted the future. I have preempted what's going to happen. I have preempted the changes that are about to happen. And now, proactively, I have prepared for it. I've put myself in a position to take advantage of what's going to happen. And guess what? We have predictions that there's going to be a recession. And it's not just here. It's going to be a global recession. Some of us are praying against it. But let me tell you the truth. In any recession, in any crisis, there are winners and losers. It's the cycle of life. So the question is how you position yourself on the winning side. While it's crashing here, it's going up somewhere else, because it's equilibrium. That's what life is. And that's why the scripture is quite apt when it says that when they say there's a casting down, you will say what? There's a lifting up. How do I leverage the casting down to actually catapult me up? You have to shift from being reactionary to being proactive. Every time you are always in reaction mode, you've lost the initiative and you've lost control. We need to stop reacting. It's time to shift from reacting to proacting, but to proactive, to take the initiative, to lead, to plan and execute. But somebody is still going to argue with me and say, but there will always be things that happen that you didn't plan for. What do you do then? What do you do then? When it seems like the only option you have left to do is to react, don't react. What do I do? Respond. Somebody saying that's you're just playing with English here. No, listen to me closely. There's a difference between reacting and responding. For somebody with a medical background like myself, we know what we call the knee-jerk reaction, where we'll bring a patient who tell him to hold his knee gently. We bring the patellar arm hammer and we just tap a certain part of the knee. Has anybody had that test done on them before? And the lower part of the leg will just kick up, just without a conscious thought. It's a reaction. That is the best picture, or one of the best pictures of what it means to be reactive. A stimulus comes, boom, you just react without thought, without any form of consideration, you just react. That's reaction. Response is different. Response is to respond after having considered all factors. Did you get that? So when I say don't react, respond, what I'm actually asking you to do is, rather than taking the instinctive response, if you like, you pause. You look at it. What is the best way to respond to this thing that has just come? That's no longer a reaction. Now this is a response. The difference between a reaction and a response is the pause. The difference between a reaction and a response is the pause. The pause is that moment you take to consider and decide, what's the best way? What's the best response to this? So somebody abused you, don't react. Stop, pause. What's the best response? You hear me what I'm saying? So at that, immediately you pause and you respond, you have taken back control. The person that initially brought the stimuli was in control and expected you to react in a particular way. And if you had reacted in the particular way that he wanted you to react, he's still in control. But when you take that pause and you choose your response, you've taken back control. The leading edge, you shift from being reactionary, and you move to become proactive. And if you feel like there's no other option but to react, don't. Choose rather to respond. Finally, at the bedrock of being proactive is foresight. You cannot be proactive if you don't have foresight, if you are unable to look into the future, preempt, predict what is in the future, and then based upon that foresight, you can now be proactive to prepare for what is ahead. So this is why we need a new generation of sons of Issachar in the house to rise up, to look at what is ahead, and then say, this is what we need to do in preparation for what is ahead. Seeing is everything. Seeing is everything. And when I talk about seeing being everything, I'm not just talking about your natural sight. I'm actually talking about your inner sight. The scripture talks about those who have eyes and yet don't see. So it's telling you that there's a sight that is beyond the natural seeing. Seeing is everything. There are 4 types of sight that you need to be able to see totally. I don't have the time to start going into them today. Hindsight, the ability to look into the back, into the past, and draw the right lessons, not the wrong ones, the right lessons from your past. Foresight, the ability to look into the future, preempt what is ahead and prepare for it. Oversight stroke undersight, where you have oversight over other people, but you also are under the sight. You have mentors, you have people that are looking over you. And finally, the one that I like the most, insight. And this is where most people stumble, because most of us have inaccurate insight. The ability to look at yourself and assess yourself accurately and unapologetically. Not, there's a way we look at ourselves and we always frame ourselves in the best light. But if you're going to really grow, you're going to have to be able to be honest, not just about your strengths, but also about your weaknesses. Insight. But all of that is a conversation for another day. For you to be proactive as a leader, to have the leading edge, you've got to engage foresight. And that's part of the reason that I'm so excited this Saturday to have my brother, my friend, truly a man of foresight, visionary, futurist, multiple other adjectives that I could use to describe him. But I just find him to have incisive vision of what is ahead. And I think there is no time like the time we're living in where we need such clarity about tomorrow. There's no time like the time we're living in where we need to be able to see what tomorrow holds. A time that we're living in, when there's so much despair, so much despondency, so much running away and hiding, this is the time where we need sons of Issachar to rise up and say, this is what we are meant to be doing. So that when they say that there is a casting down, we will be able to say that there is a lifting up.